We have Don't Get Scrooged this evening, avoiding scams and protecting yourself online. So just like with our, last webinar, we want to end financially confident and ready for 2026. And not only is that being proactive in, the uh, tax loss harvesting that we talked about last month and Roth conversions and all that, just protecting yourselves from bad actors. And that's hopefully what we talk through here this evening with the scams presentation. So, again, I'm Bob. I'll kind of be leading this conversation here, but happy to have Nora and Nick on the call with me this evening. So, we'll all try to kind of chime in and, really just the reason we decided we wanted to do this webinar this evening is there's just been an influx of scams that we've seen even within our client base here recently. We had one client that, lost almost $300,000 to a scam. We just had another one, Nick, or actually an email this morning that got caught up in a wire fraud scam. And, it's just so prevalent these days that we wanted to put this out there, communicate it to everybody, help you to understand what red flags maybe to look for, and just protect you, your loved ones, your family in this holiday season. So, we'll go through the scam landscape, just what scammers are trying to do and work on. We'll talk through some of the common scams, specifically the ones we've seen recently. But then I kind of have an open conversation of all the ones that the three of us and the other team members here at Balance have seen over our careers, how we can protect ourselves, how we try our best to help even outside of these webinars, some resources for y'all, and of course, Q&A, and even beyond that, I think some comments, because I'm sure that some of the listeners, some of the folks that are on here this evening have seen some of these themselves. And if you want to share stories or insights or whatever, we're happy to do that. So, Nora and Nick, is there anything else you guys want to add before we kick it off here this evening?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you hit it on, Bob. And I think as much as we're seeing it as prevalent, just in general, holiday timeframe seems to be when we see a lot of spikes. One, you're more, your generosity, you're looking at charitable contributions. So we see scammers take a lot of unique, creative ways to kind of get in front of you and build that trust. So again, holiday, end of year, you're kind of, maybe some financial stress is going on. You're trying to wrap up finances. We see a lot of them kind of spike towards the end of the year.
Yep, absolutely. So, well, all right. So, without further ado, we're going to jump in. Actually, before I do that, I want to touch on a couple of things. So, first and foremost, Nora, if you could drop the link to the YouTube video in the chat here. But this webinar this evening is specifically about scams and scammers, right? So, looking more at like the human side of like they're trying to scam somebody in particular out of something. We did back in April a cybersecurity webinar. AJ Orr, who's down here in the picture here, this is just a still from the webinar itself, but it was a super informative webinar about two-factor authentication and the importance of strong passwords and how to protect your Wi-Fi at home. All these different really great insights that we talked for almost an hour with AJ about. He's a cybersecurity professional. And I encourage you, if you want to look more in that direction, please go rewatch this or watch this webinar. It's always on our media page. Nora dropped in the link to the YouTube video in the chat. So I encourage you to go see that because this one's a little bit different, right? The scams are going to be different than just overall cybersecurity. And then the second thing I wanted to mark your calendars for is Tuesday, January 27th, 2026, same time. So basically, a month from now, a little over a month from now, Nick and Sean will be doing our 2025 investment review and 2026 outlook. So, Nora is also going to drop into the chat the link to sign up for that webinar. So, if you want to kind of be ahead of the curve and get signed up so that it's on your calendar, please do. But that's always our, most attended, most enjoyed. And I understand, look at Nick, he's a handsome man and he's really smart. So encourage all of you to be on there for that in January. So Nora, thanks for throwing those out there. And now we're going to kind of jump into the scam stuff. So with the scam landscape, And I'm going to skip through some of this animation just so I'm not kind of talking. But the reason we want to talk through this is because they're so sophisticated now with between AI, between all the social media platforms, all the different moving parts we have, scammers can tie into so many different things that we have to always be, in a way, on alert to make sure we're aware of what's going on. And my favorite one here, and Nick and Nora, you can chime in here too if you want, but really is the second point here that fraud affects folks of all ages, backgrounds, levels of wealth, right? I have seen just personally in my experience that extremely smart, business owners, talented people fall victims to scams because these scammers are so honestly they're smart, they're creative. Nora, as you referenced, right? Like they really kind of create this environment that we want to believe them or really believe them. So I don't want people to look at this and say I'd never fall for something like that because you'd be surprised at the folks that do.
Hmm.
Yeah, unfortunately,
So
common sense, just doesn't work as much anymore, So it's not your grandparents' scams that we kind of heard in the past, right?
yeah, the
Yeah, it's less Nigerian princes that need money. It's more personalized and way more sneaky. You talked about AI briefly, Bob, and so I'm going to use that as opportunity to not rant for 20 minutes. But just with AI, like it does so many great things, but immediately it gets used for evil, just at the same time it gets used for good. And so it's like a war, right? Like somebody develops a great tank or a great drone, and then the other team develops the anti-tank and the anti-drone.
Mhm.
And so it's really as great as cybersecurity is, and as great as we are as good as we are for looking out for scams, they just get better and better. So we just got to keep refining our eyes and just trying to keep a pulse on things. So I think this webinar will be great. Keep it going, Bob.
Yep. Yep, awesome. Well, and to your point there, Nick, I think that as all of this stuff develops, right, it's just us continuing to be mindful of it, right, and being aware that it can happen, and that they are people out there that are operating in a way that, really they're trying to create this urgency and fear. And again, the difference between like the cybersecurity webinar and this webinar here, right? Like cybersecurity, again, it's protecting your password. It's, making sure it's strong enough, all this stuff. These scammers pull on different things, right? They create these emotions inside of us, right? Creating urgency and fear. Sometimes they build up trust, right? We'll talk about what are called romance scams, right? And, just so those we've seen that with clients that comes through and really emotional manipulation. So, as people get dragged into these or, get caught up in these, so to speak, it's important to understand that this is not just like some algorithm working in the background. It's actually like, these people trying to outsmart all of the protections we already have in place. So, just being mindful of it, having a trusted resource, whether it's friends, family, kids, parents, or us as advisors, can be really helpful to help offset some of these risks. So, anything to add here from the two of you before I kind of dive into some of the common scams that we've seen here in our world? So, the first one, and the reason I'm leading with this one is this one personally impacted one of my very close, dear clients. That thankfully they reached out to me before stuff got too far along. But bank impersonation and specifically tech support scams, right? So, in the situation that I'm referring to, client opened up his computer, up popped this big warning screen that said, "You have a virus, you have to call this number." He called the number, they asked for remote access, said, "Hey, let's screen share so we can figure this out." Asked him to log into his bank account. Like it was what seemed like a very legitimate issue with his computer, but ultimately it was just a scammer trying to bypass, right, the security protocols, the two-factor authentication, password, all that stuff, through building trust as claiming that they are, a bank or tech employee or some version of authority. So, and what you'll see, these are just visual cues that you may see that would come up that would cause you to, think, hey, maybe this is a scam, right? So, how many times have we seen these messages, Nick? I have a Coinbase account. I get a Coinbase message like 2 times a week, right? That says, "Hey, your two-factor authentication needs updated. Call us at this or whatever." So, these companies are not truly doing this, right? Anytime you see something like this pop up, 99.999% of the time, it is some sort of scam. So, it's important to really think about that. And we had again, this is just personal experience here. Just 2 weeks ago, we had one of our clients that lost $25,000 because a scammer posed as a bank employee, obtained the three-digit code on the back of her card, and was able to pull money from her bank account because of that. And all originated from a fake bank email. And, just to bring back up the cybersecurity webinar conversation with AJ. I encourage all of you to look back at that if you haven't seen it. AJ really went into what do you look for when you look at a URL or an email address or something like that to help you to understand if it may or may not be some sort of scam. So, these are prevalent. They're all over the place. Again, I'll share my quick personal story. The client that saw this pop up on their screen, this warning your computer may be infected, got all the way to the point that he pulled $20,000 out of his bank account, was at a different ATM at a different bank, was about to deposit it directly to an account that these folks told him to. And then he called me and I said, pause right there. This is not something you should be doing. And we were able to backtrack, unwind, and effectively nothing happened to him. So we are very thankful for that. So, you know, just takeaways here and Nick and Nora again, I don't want to dominate the conversation, so wherever you want to jump in here. But you know, banks will never call you and ask for anything personal from you. They already have it. They don't need it, right? And if you do get a call that like they're like, hey, this is Chase, and we need to verify XYZ pieces of information, just go ahead and hang up on them, pick up your card, look at the card number that or the telephone number that's on the back of your card, call that number and ask them if there's an issue. And if you call that number and there's an issue, okay, there may be an issue, but otherwise, don't do it. And number one, don't click on suspicious links, right? That is first and foremost, just don't click on anything really that you get from a text message or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I I've seen like the tech support one. My wife actually fell for one of those in college. So thankfully
Mm.
she was, broke college student, had nothing to steal. But it was a good lesson. I'm like glad you learned that lesson then, and hopefully you don't need to relearn that again in adulthood. But so I've seen that firsthand. I think she's super smart and sharp, and about a couple hours into them remoting into her computer, she's like, "Yeah, I don't think this is right. Like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Like, he's like fumbling around in there. Yeah, just not good. The other super common text scam I see is the tolls. Oh my goodness,
Mm.
it's I don't know if like how if they're figuring out like if you traveled somewhere semi recently, or what, or if they just push it out randomly, but. We recently drove to Chicago and back, and then like 2 weeks later, every single one of us in the group got a text for a toll. And I'm like, first of all, I have my GPS set to no toll road, so I know that didn't happen. But I can't believe they hit everyone in our group. Like they hit not only in our household, but like other folks that we were with. So, they're pretty savvy with it. And they just want your credit card number, right? And then that's all it
Mhm.
takes. So. Sometimes it's not like super personal, emotional things. It's more just like a small thing that you're like, oh, I'll just pay this $2 toll and not worry about it. And then all of a sudden it's a $10,000 toll. And you're like, whoa, what happened here? So anyway, go ahead, Nora. Sorry to cut
Yep.
you off.
No, no, I had a client. I know a lot of the examples are females in here, but like we said, everyone is kind of targeted, not just older generation or specific. He was about a
Mhm.
40-year-old male with a very large, his checking and savings with a large institution. And his was not just from the computer, but a phone call that knew personal information. So we kind of talk about building that trust.
Mhm.
And so they knew some personal information. Savings account numbers were transferred over, and anything that, really has to do with wire. We'll talk a little bit about cryptocurrency, or like gift cards, we'll talk later. That's really hard to trace and really hard to recover. And so
Mhm.
unfortunately, his savings got wiped out and it was a wire. So again, just notifying, like Bob said, hang up the phone, call the number on the back of the card. Don't give out any specific account numbers over the phone.
Yep, absolutely. So both, I mean, again, these are things, folks, that unfortunately the three of us we see all the time from clients because they run into it. And Nick, the reason I went back to this screen is this text message from Suncorp or whatever it is, right? Like this is what you'll see for your toll road messages or any number of different text messages. Just ignore
Mhm.
them, right? That's kind of the first, the biggest one that we see a lot of. This next one I'll talk about a little bit more because this was a client of mine and another team member, Tim, that these romance scams really play on the emotions of folks. And I bring this up because this individual, this lady, she was, in her 50s, she was divorced, and she was on dating apps, and she was looking to reconnect with somebody and found somebody that she thought was, a really good match. And of course, what they're going to do is they're going to say, "Oh my gosh, if you say I like pina coladas, they're going to be like pina coladas are my favorite thing ever." Or if I like pumpkin pie, they're going to say pumpkin pie is my favorite thing ever. They're going to tell you they love you really quick, right? And then all of a sudden, it's going to turn financial. And this is exactly what happened, right? They said, "Well, hey, I'm just it's a happy day for me today. I made $10,000 in a cryptocurrency, right? Or whatever it may be." And they move over to Telegram, WhatsApp, these different encrypted messaging apps so that they can do it internationally because, of course, they don't have a cell phone because that would be a bad idea. But what you'll see is that all of a sudden these dating apps will create an environment where it's like, "Hey, I love you, and I can't get over to see you because my car broke down. So can you Venmo me $1,200? Can you buy some Amazon gift cards because the cancer patients I was looking to take care of, I forgot my wallet," right? Like they seem so small, right? Like it's like, "Oh, I'd love to help cancer patients." Of course, we all would, right? But these are scams from scammers that are playing off the emotional vulnerability of young people that might be looking for connection, divorced folks that might be looking for it, widows, widowers, whatever it may be. So I want to bring this up because even though, excuse me, a large majority of our clients are married, these can be very prevalent for friends, family members, kids, anyone that is single can fall victim to these romance scams because, again, the emotional tie that they play off. And what we saw was, and this was actually the child of a client of ours that lost $265,000 over the course of 5 months. They even sent screenshots that showed her a balance in her crypto account of $1.5 million. And she felt like, "Hey, I finally made enough money. I want to pull this money out." And they said, "Okay, well, in order for us to send this to you, you have to send us $100,000 for the taxes first." And the daughter called her mom. The mom is a client of ours, and immediately our alarm bells went off. And ultimately, we found out what was going on. We thankfully did not send that additional $100,000 to lose some more money through this, but it's just they dig their teeth in, and it's really a sad situation that can come up. So, for these romance scams, I encourage you, if you have, friends, family members, whoever, especially around the holidays, who are single, who are on dating apps, who are trying to make that emotional connection, just be sure that, not to dig into their business too much, but just to be mindful of things like this that are out there, that there are people that are willing to go that low to take advantage of folks, just to get some money. So it's a really sad thing. So it was, sad for all of us, I think, on the team as we talked about it, but, just something that, is out there. So anything to add from you guys? I know this is one that's more near and dear to my heart, but, it's out there. Okay. So the next one is just overall text message scams, right? And, we were talking about this as we were kind of setting everything up. I've gotten the text messages that are from an unknown number. Like you see this 437 number here. I get them. My wife gets them. That's just like, hey, been thinking about you. How you been? Hey, what'd you think of dinner last night? Whatever. And both Heather and I will look at each other, will be like, who the heck is this? Right. And it's just some random number that what they're trying to do is start a conversation, right? They're really just trying to get you to engage so that you start a conversation and go from there. But these text message scams comes in all shapes and sizes. Nick, you referred to the toll road one. FedEx, right? I'll get all these, your
Oh,
package hasn't been
yeah.
delivered. Heather fell for one of those. I don't know if I told you guys that, but sorry to call out my wife on this, but she fell for one of those not even a
Both of
year
us
ago.
calling out our wives. This is a terrible webinar.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully it's not recorded, right? So, but Heather fell for one of them because it was like, hey, your package hasn't been delivered, and she's always got something coming from Amazon, right? So she thought it was legitimate. She clicked the link, and we had to change all of our passwords on everything, right? So, um, these are very prevalent, and I think the big thing with these, and you guys can, chime in here too, just never click a link in a text message, like ever. 0 times out of 10, don't click a link in a text message, and don't respond to unknown numbers, right? So those are the big takeaways there.
Yeah, I have a story that happened to me personally when we first merged in July it
Mhm.
was. I didn't have everybody on Balance Wealth team's cell phone number. And I don't mean to call him out either on here because he's not here to defend himself, but I got a text message say, "Hey Nora, it's Ryan Mannon. Bob and I are doing a webinar or an event, and I need," and we'll go into this, is probably skipping a slide, but it was a text message, and they wanted gift cards, right? So, hey, do you mind running to like Walgreens real quick, get a couple gift cards, and then send me the link? And I was like, well, one, like, I don't have Ryan, but like, how would they know Ryan Mannon? And how do they know this merge just happened and I didn't have his cell phone? And so, kind of what a learning lesson is, I emailed Ryan and I said, hey, are you texting me about a gift card? And he just started laughing. But the one thing about these scams is they're so sophisticated. I used to think when I would get these like phishing emails, right? You would go through an employer and they said, hey, don't click on these phishing emails and things. I always thought it was like one person behind the scene, one hacker or something. But these are like networks of people that go so far to an extent of, building legitimacy. I've seen like landing pages, so if you're looking them up, it's just so sophisticated that, even like we said, even the smartest people can fall for these. But yeah, Ryan Mannon had texted me for some gift cards. Luckily, I had reached out to him and it wasn't Ryan. So
Yep. Well, and I know that I got something very similar, Nora, from because as the you know you know, see whatever, right? Like because I manage who gets paid where, I got text messages and emails from Nora, from Nick, from Ryan, from Tim, right? That are like, hey, I want to change my banking information, right? Click this link, so that I can set it up, or where should I send the money so that I can do that, right? Like, so there even emails and stuff to me that I knew were illegitimate, right? Just because I know Ryan would never sign an email Ryan Mannon when he's talking to me, right? Like, but so it's easy to spot sometimes, and it's sort of like funny as we talk about it, but in truth, these can be, to Nora, to your point, very sophisticated, very personalized, and you just need to have your alerts up. So if you get something from, friend, family member, kid, whoever it might be that seems odd, just call them, right? Just pick up the phone like Nora did, send an email, send a message to where they are, and it'll help you avoid that. Okay. Next one here is gift card scams. Again, I had another one here, and a client of mine, he, again, really, really smart guy. He didn't end up falling for it. He got about to the 1 yard line and then said, I think this is bad. But it was Spectrum, like cable, like his TV service or whatever, said, hey, you know what? We'll cut your bill in half if you pay with gift cards. And he went through all these different processes and vetted it and verified. He's like, this seems legit. So I'm going to go to the store and get these Amazon gift cards and send them to this place so that Spectrum gets them because whatever. And like, again, it was just a scam. And again, it seems as we talk about it, we know it's a scam. It seems silly. But honestly, like these are all kinds of different ways that they will try to get you. Again, Nora, you mentioned it earlier, to try to get you to buy gift cards. They'll try to get you to send wires. They'll try to get you to go, what's the one of the like where you can go and you can send money, from it.
Venmo.
Can't, yeah. So any of those things, right? They'll try to send it through a place that's not a verified bank, right? Because they're international and these things can't be tracked, right? So, you don't have unused gift card balances anywhere. If you do, I can promise you, if you've got a $24 on your Target gift card that's left over, Target doesn't want you to know about it, right? They're not going to call you and tell you to use it, right? So just be mindful of these things and know that they can be out there. And as we finish up with the common scams, I kind of put this catch-all in here because both Nick and Nora have a lot of experience that they've seen over the years and just kind of sharing some of our personal stories of what we've seen so that all of you can just make sure extra that you are watching out and keeping an eye on it. And the other thing I'll say is if anybody has seen, been a victim to any of that stuff, scams through the years, throw them in the chat, throw them in the Q&A, whatever you want to, just so we can read them, we can share them, and we can let people know to keep their eyes out for something else that we may not have even seen. So,
All right. Nora, I'll let you take it away on that first one. That one was yours, right? The wire scam.
Yeah, I mean, to be fully transparent, I mean, it was from a USAA, which very credible, banking institution. Like I said, they knew personal information, you know, and just anything that says wire account numbers on a phone, anything like that, you just got to be extremely wary about that. Crypto scams, and Nick, probably you're just like dying to talk about crypto a little bit. That a ton of scams, and I was just kind of looking in preparation for this webinar is okay, well, what kind of money are we thinking about when we look at how many people are duped into these like crypto investments? And there was like an FBI internet, one of their departments that said about in 2024, it was $5.8 billion tied
wow.
to cryptocurrency scams. So again, when we talk about it's not your grandparents anymore, it's really very financial savvy. When you think of some of the biggest Ponzi schemes, these are going off after wealthy individuals. And so
Yep.
this webinar is not to like scare people. It's just to note the red flags and things that we've
Mhm.
experienced that we can share with you guys to just keep an alert, right? Keep your eyes open for.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think of like, what the stock market was before we had the SEC and regulation, right? Like people are just like slinging stocks that they just made up right and left, and there's no internet to verify. So they're calling, people in California are calling folks on Wall Street and just the Wild West, no way to verify. Crypto is less of the Wild West now. There's a lot more ways to verify what you're looking at. But chances are, like, if you're not on one of the main platforms, just immediate red flags, right? Like almost anything that you're trying to accomplish, like whatever crypto thing it is, see if you can try to accomplish it on like a very well-known, well-established custodian, that you hopefully, are able to set up yourself and, put some proper passwords and stuff in place. I, yeah, I'm gonna pause on that one because I actually am gonna throw a curveball at you guys and do a screen share. I'm gonna take over in a minute.
Oh, can you do
But
that?
first, I don't know. We'll figure out how to do that. I'm a co-host. Think it'll work. But first,
Yeah.
the investment newsletters. Okay, so this is like a rant. I've been waiting to rant about forever. So I have so many great clients who try to do their own research on things, their own due diligence, and there's
Which is good.
which is good, right? I recommend that. I'm not saying like don't do due diligence. But what happens, especially with retirees, these investment newsletter companies, just totally prey on folks' worst fears, right? Like you're going to run out of money. The dollar's not going to be worth anything. You need all of the insurance and like whatever it is. And and it's so tough because a lot of those investment newsletters are legitimate businesses. So they almost always have some reputable person that used to be on Wall Street associated with them. But the kicker is that those are all classified or viewed by the SEC as entertainment companies. And so what they're trying to sell is subscriptions and hopefully subscriptions that you just forget about. But research subscriptions and I've had a client literally with thousands of dollars of these subscriptions that they just forgot about, or it was like
Like a gym membership that you
they
don't
signed
use,
up
right? You
once.
forget about it.
Yeah, but then it renews like annually or every 2 years or something like that. And so they totally forgot about it. And then it's like, bam, another $2,000 hit for this investment newsletter. And man, it's tough because they can say anything, they can talk about all kinds of stuff, but chances are they're not a real investment firm, so therefore they don't fall under the regulatory body that real advisors fall under. So they can just say whatever they want. We have to actually be careful what we say and speak truth by law. But a lot of folks, I
And
mean,
have
that's why.
disclosures at the end of our webinar, which we'll have tonight. So,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. And but that's why, like, even CNBC and like the Jim Cramer, the Squawk Box thing, that's viewed as entertainment, not financial advice. And so they can just say all kinds of things to people, and there's no repercussions, there's no follow through on it at all, and there's no verification of their track records either. Is the real thing. That's what it always boils down to me. I'm like, if you had such a great investment strategy, then you would probably launch that into a fund and make 10 times, 100 times the money than you are doing selling these $100 newsletter subscriptions. And
mhm.
so,
Or you
that
just,
is
or Nick, you just keep it to yourself, right? And you hang out on a beach in, Punta Cana, and that'd be fine, right? So,
exactly, exactly. So those investment newsletters, man, those grind my gears. I'd say if you get them or if you want us to like have a, gut check on any of the things that you're subscribed to, like by all means, shoot it our way. We're happy to tell you if it's sound, good research, or if it's just,
because just as
fear-mongering
as the
nonsense.
side point with that one, right? Like there are great research
Hmm.
newsletters, right, that are super informative and helpful and unbiased. And then there are others that fall into this scam category that are literally just trying to create fear, anxiety, and especially as it relates to political affiliations, right? One way or another, they're going
Hmm.
to prey on that. So, um,
Yeah.
that's a great point, Nick. The one not even like more, right, but I think will become more and more prevalent is the deepfakes one. And Nick is our resident AI expert, right? Is our investment, guru
So,
and everything. And honestly, I'm going to tee this up for you too, Nick, because and I don't want to spend too much time on this because I do want to wrap up the webinar and everything.
yeah.
Um, but I do want to put a little feeler out there, right? We're going to do our investment update in January, but I was also talking about Nick, and he wants to really do a deep dive into AI and how that impacts not only financial and markets but also the world as a whole. So we're going to do like a really narrow focused AI conversation with Nick. And so these deep fakes, I think, are really interesting and going to be something that really are going to be the next level or the next step of these scams. And so, Nick, if you just want to share a little bit about that and what you've seen here, in the coming, years.
Yeah. I'm going to take over right now. I think it'll let me.
Okay, let's go ahead and try
Um,
it. I've never seen it
oh,
happen. So,
wow. All right. Okay. Bob, you may have to stop sharing. I don't know how that's looking for folks,
okay,
but can you guys see my
you get to
screen?
see our big, not yet. Nope, we can't see anything,
Okay.
Nick. I
Yeah,
can't.
try to stop sharing yours then.
I did.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let me just try one more time. And it says it'll work, so I believe it. All right. Oh, there we go.
Perfect. Got it.
Yeah. All right. So I am on Schwab.com. This is a site that many of you may be very familiar with. And even if you just go to Google, and just go to good old Schwab.com, that's where it takes you. There's a new AI platform out there to help web designers launch. And unfortunately, this is like the number one tool that scammers are using right now, too. It's called Black Box AI. And of course, they'll have cool names. Not to be confused with BlackRock. I don't know. Every one thing always has the color black in it. That's like, semi-evil, but it's fine. So anyway, Black Box AI. All I did is go to schwab.com, take a screenshot of this page and say, sorry, this page. And so I got my screenshot saved. All I did is upload that to Black Box AI and I said, recreate this website for me. And that's it. Zero other coding. I did this on my other page here. But this is the output. So this is a fake Schwab website that is
Mm,
based on the real Schwab website. And I can pivot back and forth for you guys to kind of see the difference there. This is fake. So this could be totally, used to capture your credentials.
mm,
Everything looks legit. It'll actually pull up things like these are real drop downs. This is just a simple version that I made in the 10 seconds before this webinar, but just to show you, like, enter website of choice. This is insanely easy for folks to replicate. And this is like can get you in really big trouble. So when you're navigating to any of our websites, I recommend going to balancewealth.com and using the client login from our website so it actually directs you to the right place. Or B, just make sure you're going, like don't click on any links, right? Because they can take you to a page that looks real, but is not real. And all they're trying to do is capture those login credentials. So then they can go bloop, right into the real site on your behalf. So anyway, this is
gotcha.
my intro to deepfakes for you guys. And just so you know, this was made in about 2 minutes flat.
Mm. Well, so Nick, thank you for, sharing that. I hope it went through to the folks that were attendees. I was able to see it. Nora, were you able to see it as we were going through it? Perfect. I saw that, one of our attendees may have not been able to see it, but
Mhm.
something that we're happy to revisit with you just to make sure that we get through there. But again, the idea here is that these are prevalent, these are out there. It's going to continue to get more sophisticated. So what we try
Mhm.
to do to help, at Balance Wealth here, first and foremost, we have internal compliance verification
Mhm.
process, right? So if we get an email, if we get a message, from you that's outside of the norm, we are going to call you and verify. So, we're going to make sure we go through our steps so that you're protected. And that's one of our many responsibilities to all the folks that we serve. And please just always call us if something doesn't feel right, because the most important thing you can do is share this with other folks, because the secrecy, the kind of the if something happens, it's easier for it to happen to just one person versus a group of folks, right? So please lean on us, share the stories, find a second set of eyes, whether it's with, again, kids or family members, whoever, us at Balance Wealth. That's what we're here for. That's what we want to be here for. And that's what, ultimately we hope we can do to help you all stay safe online. These kind of simple rules, just slow down and step back, verify the sources, always call a main number. Don't click on a link. Like if you get something from FedEx in a text message, don't click on that link. Call FedEx, and then they'll tell you whether or not you have something going on. Nora, as you referred to, don't share sensitive information. Don't give out bank account numbers, social security numbers, these things. Trust your instincts and, ultimately reach out to a family member or a trusted resource. And of course, I put balance in there at the bottom. So there's some resources to help. I'm going to leave this up for a moment, but this is kind of the end of the webinar for this evening. Um, are there any questions, comments, concerns, Nick, Nora, anything to add as far as, experiences or things that you've seen that you wanted to make sure we touched on this evening before we wrap it up?
Mhm.
I think just even just from an internal standpoint, but with the custodians that we use as well. So, for example, this year I had Charles Schwab reach out to me to verify someone had impersonated a client to call. They called Schwab directly trying to move funds. So Schwab alerted me to confirm with the client as well, and at least alert them that there was a restriction on their account because there were some patterns that didn't seem right. So there are measures in place, which to me is reassuring when we have those safeguards in place, not just from our internal company standpoint, but from the custodians that we use as well. And so know that we get notified of that, and we just make sure that we're transparent with you all as well.
Yep.
Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
that's a really great point, Nora, that both Schwab and Altruist are extremely tech forward and keeping an eye on these things because they have to, because that is their business. And then, so we kind of have two extra layers of protection for all of you, right? You have us here personally that know you all personally, but then we have the custodians that are there to protect from anything that seems off base.
Mhm. Yep. I'd say the last thing I'd say is if you answer a call from a number that you like don't know, and a lot of times like your business people, whatever, like you have customers calling you or clients or whatever, and you don't know their number. um, I would be super weary of the way that you answer your phone to numbers you don't know, because a lot of those AI bots are just trying to hear the way that you speak, the deepfakes. And so
Mhm.
they'll capture the way that you answer your phone, like, "Hey, this is Bob," or "Hey, this is Nick at Alan's Wealth." And so they'll record that and then just like immediately hang up on you. So what I recommend if you are answering a call from a number you don't know, it's like you can answer it, but then just like don't be the first one to speak. And it might be like a little awkward, but oftentimes you can actually hear like a robot literally in the background of like the
Mm.
recording sounds of like the air. And so anyway, and if somebody's real on the phone, they're gonna be like, "Hello," you'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, hey, how's it going?" You
Nick,
know?
you know what that makes me think of? If you've seen, I think this is the second Bourne Identity movie, right? So the Bourne
Mhm.
Supremacy.
Yep.
Jason Bourne does that where Noah Vosom answers the phone, he gets his voice, and it helps him open the safe, right? So that was some,
Mhm.
super spy that was doing it, and now it's transitioning to where AI is going to take that over, right? And the robots are going to use that. After Nick shared that with me, I stopped answering the phone the way I do, which is, "Hello, this is Bob." And if it's an unknown number, honestly, me just saying hello is all I'll do. But now I
Mhm.
should not even be saying that. So thank you, Nick.
Yeah, yeah. Or, if it's important to leave a message and if it's real, you can call them back,
Yep,
but we try to
exactly.
answer our phones even if it's numbers we don't know. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So,
yep.
well, that's everything we have for this evening. I think 45 minutes is about, where we want to be. So I think we did an okay job. So, first, as we wrap it up, want to put up the disclaimer, of course, because that's what we do. But Nick, thank you so much for being on and for your insights. Nora, thank you so much for being on and kind of filling in for Ryan as our tech specialist, here this evening. So hopefully everybody enjoyed the webinar tonight. If you have any follow-up questions, concerns, stories to share, please feel free to reach out to any of us. That's what we're here for. But if we don't talk to you, have a great Christmas, great New Year, and we'll look forward to seeing you with Nick and Sean for the investment update on January 27th of 2026. So thank you all for being here this evening. We appreciate it, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Cool.